Well, let's look at a few more things on this Land Rover. Just as a reminder, it's a 1982 Land Rover Series 3. It was a ex-military car. It's called a Series 3 MOD FFR, Ministry of Defense, fitted for radio. First, let's look under the bonnet and see what we can see under there. You know, someone once told me that every man needs a truck with a tire on the hood, so that's what I like. I like the tire up here rather than on the back, just because it looks a little more adventurous. So there's little spring clips here that open the bonnet. Push it up here, on right there, that locks it. So I'll show you what's under here. So here's the engine compartment. It is a 2.5 liter petrol gasoline engine. I just had the carburetor redone. A friend of mine showed me how to take it apart and clean it up. It was running good, but we decided to just clean it up for the fun of it. Now, one interesting thing is the military had basically a waterproof distributor and spark plugs in here. And so they're hard to find. And this whole system is a 24 volt system. Under the seats are two batteries hooked in series, so everything is 24 volts. And right behind the coil was a big stack of electronic wizardry for the radio guys. And I took all that out, and then it was running a little rough. And a friend of mine said, well, put in some ballast resistors. So I put in these two ballast resistors in line from the ignition to the coil, and that smoothed everything right down. I don't understand everything, but apparently these resistors smooth down the electrical current to the engine. Now, it originally came with this huge alternator that filled this whole space up. It was a generator, a 24 volt generator. It looked big enough to power a small city, and had some problems with that. Some of the terminals were breaking off, and I thought I was in big trouble, but I found that 24 volt alternators are easily. Many trucks in the U.S. have them, and so I ordered this 24 volt alternator, kind of made a new bracket for it, and everything works fine now. And so that was a problem that was easily solved. This is the oil bath air cleaner. Has about an inch of oil in the bottom of it and sucks in air at the top. So as long as I keep these little air vents here out of the water, it's pretty much a waterproof engine. The other thing is, down here is the fuel pump, which is right there, and underneath the fuel pump is a glass settling bulb. And that's the only time I got stranded, had to be towed home because I didn't know enough to fix it. I came to a stop. I thought it was overheating or vapor lock or something, but actually that glass bulb under there had the screw had come loose, so it was sucking air there. And after I got it home, I tightened that up and things ran fine. The other thing I replaced was the starter solenoid, which was easy to find, a 24 volt solenoid. So 24 volt parts are available in some cases. Let's see. Another thing I want to show you is the exhaust system. Since this was a European truck and not a British truck, they put the driver, the steering wheel on the left side. But you notice the exhaust goes right down under the seat. And I found while driving that my foot got very, very hot. Because you see, the exhaust pipe goes right there and up by the seat, and so your foot that you have to keep on the accelerator gets quite hot. And so the other day I put a little heat deflector in there, and I haven't taken it out on the road to see if that makes any difference, but I hope it does. I'll show you how. This is one of the fuel tanks right here. So to fill up the fuel tank, you take the seat cushion off, and you take this rubber thing off here, and here is here's the fuel where you fill that up. It's a. Let me get the camera here just a little closer. But this is where you fill up the fuel there. And it's a 12-gallon tank. The other seat on the other side has 12 more gallons. I put this foil in here to help keep the heat from coming up out of the exhaust. Now another thing I did, let me put the seat cushion back on. You know, I'm pretty fat, got a big belly, and so besides my belly rubbing against the steering wheel, it was quite a severe bend to get my feet on the clutch and the brake and all that. And so I made this extra bracket, and I moved the seat back about 2 inches, and so it's much more comfortable. But with this piece of strapping here, I put new bolts where the seat was, and so the seat still slides. Somehow, if I can do this one-handed. Still slides, but I always keep it all the way to the back. So that's where the fuel tank is, and there's one under the other seat on the other side, and it usually raises a few eyebrows when you pull up to the gas station and they see you take the gas nozzle and open the door and stick it in there. So that's interesting. But then there's a little switchover valve over there in front of the passenger seat that switches from one tank to the other. So when the one tank is out, it starts to chug, and I just switch it over, and then I got 12 more gallons, another 150 miles or so I can go. So that's the fuel system and the engine. Maybe you noticed that I park it over this rug because you've probably guessed why I do that. It drips oil. It leaks oil while it's running. One of the main bearings under there, from the engine to the transmission or someplace, drips oil a little bit, and so I always check the oil before I go anyplace. And looking on this side, and I always carry a quart of oil with me because after about 100 miles I need to put a quart in there. This is the passenger side, of course. The battery compartment is this compartment right here. There's these two clips, and there are two batteries in there, which hooked up in series gives me 24 volts. And everything is 24 volts. The lights, the gauges, you know, I had to replace a light bulb, and I ordered it. It was about a $35 light bulb for the headlamp. And I have a little cigarette lighter thing here, and this is 24 volts. And I was hoping, and I was able to buy a 24 volt inverter. So when I'm camping, I can plug the inverter in there, and I have 110 volts for my accessories, my CPAP machine that I camp with all the time, and so I'm able to go camping. And with two batteries like that, I've got a big reserve to run accessories between charges when the engine is running. So that's what I do while camping. On another video, I'll show you my camping setup here in the bed.